I worry that we've gone so far down the like toxic rabbit hole, we are missing the ability to just even look at some things.
Well,
Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, go ahead.
Bitcoin maximalism is a bell curve phenomenon. And on the right side of the bell curve, you have the people who have done all of the first principles thinking, all of the independent research, and concluded after sifting through everything that Bitcoin is the way, the truth, the light, right? On the left side, you have pure unbridled dogmatism. So a lot of Twitter is going to be pure unbridled dogmatism, but that doesn't mean they're not right. You know what I'm saying? Like, so it's a little complicated to just say everybody's so toxic and they're so mean to me. And yet there is a certain
I don't think everyone is.
Well, no, I'm just saying there's a certain sect of Bitcoiners, and we all know some of the names, who, these people have mental health issues. They're just being assholes just to be assholes, and they would be toxic about anything. And they're like the SJWs of Bitcoin. And honestly, they all need to, shut the fuck up because they're fucking annoying. They have nothing to say, and they provide no value. But, most Bitcoiners are not like that. I would say 99% of Bitcoiners are not like that. Most Bitcoiners have done a fair amount of first principles thinking about this. And like in relation to the Rob situation, I'll tell you that I get texts and I get DMs from very well-respected people that we all know in the Bitcoin space who are disappointed in this action by Rob, but don't feel that they need to cancel him. Do feel that there is a path to, repentance for this, but it's essentially like, you got to stop lying, because that page of, this is all independent inquiry. It's just, listen, it's bullshit. And we all know it's bullshit. And you just can't slip one by the community like this. You can try and do that. You can keep doubling down. But, essentially people
That's a bad
are
strategy.
not. Yeah, it's a bad strategy. People are not going to engage with your stuff anymore. What you need to do is say, listen, I did do this. The mimetic attack on me was extremely distressing as an individual because, Peter, you've been through one. CJ, you're a professional pitcher. Like, they used to write terrible things about you in the newspaper. It is very distressing when you're a human and you go through these kinds of things. And you can make rash decisions like, the mass blocking or calling everybody else out and not looking inward and these kinds of things because, it's a very defensive posture. And I get it, right? But at some point, you have to just be like, this was a fuck up. This was a fuck up on my part.
You have to take the loss. You have to take the loss and be accountable to that. It's very simple. And and if you do that, everybody forgives the person that is accountable and takes the loss and doesn't try to keep doubling down. And that's where you have these this political side of it and the social side of it, which are definitely different than the mathematical argument or the toxic maximalist argument or whatever you want to call it. But
by the way, one more point. I want to say this. There's been so much discussion this cycle about toxic maximalism. And the reason there's so much discussion about that is because basically nobody is actually doing a first principles analysis on why Bitcoin is successful, why Bitcoin is here to stay, why nation states are adopting Bitcoin. That's the kind of thing you do when you have nothing to say. You say, Bitcoiners are mean. Let's talk about why Bitcoiners are mean to me on Twitter, right? And that's been a lot of the conversation around quote unquote toxic maximalism this cycle, because these people they have no answers. They have no worthwhile opinions. All of their criticisms of Bitcoin have fallen on deaf ears over the years because they're all nonsense. The best critiques come from inside Bitcoin. And so what do? They go, these people are mean to me. Come on. We're in the fucking playground. Who cares if people are mean to you?
It's not always that way. Like, I know what you're saying, but
it's mainly that way. You know what I mean?
But I think
Eric Weinstein is a good example, right?
That's
Eric
enough
Weinstein's
of it, for sure.
He has offered no meaningful contributions to Bitcoin, yet he wants to tell us all how to be. And it's like, no thanks, man. I like Eric Weinstein too. I like Eric Weinstein. Too. I think he's been more engaging in good faith than he has been not engaging in good faith. But it's also like all of these lessons, all of these trade-offs, the way this thing functions, this was fucking hard-won knowledge. We're not going to just bend over and give it up for you who just got here 2 minutes ago because you don't like our disposition. We're going to keep being the way we are.
I spoke to him today, so I have to approve. I mean, I don't have to do it. Someone else could do it. But I approve all the YouTube comments because there's so much spam, and it ruins the feed. And so I just go through tick, 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 block, block. The Weinstein interview has split the listeners more than anyone.
That was a frustrating interview for me to listen to. I told you about this in Miami. It was very frustrating.
Yeah, it was frustrating for me, and I want to do it again, and I want to let him talk and be less combative. But the thing is about the comments is that what I think I figured out is that some were brutal, like you're an idiot, you're too low IQ, and the others were completely the other way. Eric can't explain anything. Me and Eric talked about this today, and neither of us have thrown each other under the bus. And I think we need to do another one because we figured each other out. But what I think has happened with that one, because I took it really to heart, I've started like really looking at the comments, and actually what I think these are people who are shitcoiners, or they're no coiners, or they're Eric Weinstein fans who've discovered the interview and watched it, and they don't fully understand Bitcoin yet, and therefore they're seeing Maximalists arguing with Eric and think you shouldn't be fucking arguing with him. He's a genius. But it's such a tricky. I don't think it's an interview that you can, like the President Bukele one. Universally, everyone loves it. I shut the fuck up. I let him talk, and he just did a great job. This one, I don't think you can do one that everyone likes with Weinstein.
Listen, the enemies of freedom, the enemies of liberty, the enemies of Bitcoin are sharpening their knives to go against Bitcoin right now. You expect us to be nice to you on Twitter? The answer is no. The answer is straight up no. We're not going to be nice to you.
Yeah, because
there's something more important. This is more important than your feelings. It's way more important than your feelings. This is not a business. We're not a corporation. Somebody told me the other day on Clubhouse, I'm doing a bad job marketing for Bitcoin. I was like, I'm not a marketer, fuckface. I'm not here for you. I'm here for myself. You know?
Yeah. And I think you're right about that. And to address both those points, it doesn't matter how smart you are. It matters how well you can articulate the point you're trying to make. And I think that's what if Eric had somebody like to actually type out his words and like an editor, like his book would be incredible, right? Because you could take all these combative things that he says, like, oh, well, they haven't done anything for anybody yet. They haven't done this. They haven't done that. They haven't made a new university. And it's like, okay, well, hang on a second. Bitcoin's 10 years old, right? What has Silicon Valley done? So it's like,
but CJ, this is what I pride myself on. This is what I pride myself on, is that I can get people to do that. Because
but it's not
because I have a talent. It's just my level of understanding is at the right bar that when they say something I don't understand, I'm like, can you explain that better? And I could not get him to do it in a way.
But that's a result of his psychological status. It's not a result of his intelligence or his IQ. You know, it's a result of him maybe being in a bad mood or whatever. You know, it's not that hard to explain these things.
Rogan manages to do it, and Rogan is like, he's the best out there at this, and I take full responsibility. I think if I'd have been less combative when I got onto the combative, is that the right word? Or combative?
Yeah.
Combative. If I'd been less combative, then when we got to those difficult bits, I think he might have been more forthcoming. But I think I put him into a position where he felt like he was in a bit of an argument, like he was anti-Bitcoin, we're pro-Bitcoin, and he wasn't. He is pro-Bitcoin, but he just has these ideas. Whether they're right or wrong, I definitely fucked that one up.
But here's the thing, though. That's okay. That's okay that if this is his version of being pro Bitcoin, that's fine. Do you? We don't really care. That's the whole point. And if you're trying to inspire a spiritual, a revolutionary change in the people, which is what we talk about, right? In a lot of ways, that Bitcoin does that. And you have to find a way to actually talk about why that happens. And I think that's what Robert was trying to do with a lot of his, text and stuff over the years, is he was trying to put out this thing to say, hey, listen, this is connected, And reading some of the stuff, I'm like, okay, this is like a little bit of word salad. You could do this better. But I was a writing major, so I'm always very critical when I read things. And I think the best way to say it in any way, as an interviewer, as a subject, can you say what you're trying to say? Can you make your point in as few simple words as possible? We don't have to get into massive polysyllabic like battles. We don't have to have these huge things. You can use a metaphor that can make sense, right? HODL had this tweet stream the other day, and it was like, this is your portfolio. This is your diversified portfolio. And it was like Helm's Deep, boom. You know what I mean? And that's because it's evocative imagery, which is why memes are so effective for people that are under 50 years old, because we understand the cultural reference. We understand the comedic reference. We understand the designation that you're giving to that person in terms of status. Like in Japanese, it's 8 levels of formality when you're speaking Japanese. So memes have this same thing. Like you put a clip out of the movie White Girls, that's going to have a totally different effect than the movie from like The Graduate or whatever. So you just have to know your audience in a lot of ways, and people that can tailor their diction to the audience will win over many people, right? Regardless of the subject. We could be talking about solar panels, lions, vintage race cars, or hats, or whatever. And if you're approachable and you talk with the other person in mind, that's what like emotional intelligence is. That's the EQ, and that's just something that Eric doesn't have a lot of. He has a lot of IQ, but there's plenty of people that have both, and that's where you wouldn't necessarily put him on stage to win everybody over at a political rally, because that's not his vibe, right?
To answer a little bit more dynamic. Eric's central question from that interview, because I thought about it, he basically asked, can the decentralized people do centralized things? And the answer is some of them can, in smaller tribes, factionalized. And that's what's going to happen. Essentially, no, there is no Bitcoin community. We're not going to move as one unit. We're not going to do big centralized things, but there will be, factions that split off and they do their own thing. And, you can think about it like, the Catholic Church and all the offshoots of the Catholic Church. Like Bitcoin maximalism is the Catholic Church. Like it is the big, powerful entity that draws in the most power, influence, and social significance. And then you have other smaller sects that orbit it. And that's sort of how we've been evolving in the space for a while now. And I don't see any reason that's going to, discontinue anytime soon.
But the problem of that is when someone like Henry VIII comes in and wants to make his own rules and make his own church, right? That's where you have based on whims, not based on like Lutheranism, where they're making.
We see that in like Bcash or BSV or and any of the fork coins, right? And Bitcoin is like Christ. Everybody can get together and love Christ, no matter what their different flavoring of blockchain is. It's like Bitcoin is at the core, is at the center of it all. But you have to stay. You have to stay within social consensus in order to be a part of the Bitcoin ecosystem. Whether you have a different moral flavoring, social flavoring, in-group, out-group dynamic, all of that kind of stuff. And like we are just going to see more and more disparate Bitcoin tribes. And, Bitcoiners hate each other, man. Bitcoin is money for enemies,